Hi folks, welcome back. In the identification phase for gut health, we're going to be looking at what is manifesting as the base behind all gut health issues. This is inflammation. This is the steam engine behind almost all diseases. If inflammation is a natural and necessary part of the body's defenses, what is causing this well-designed system to malfunction? Why are so many of us suffering from excessive inflammation? Now, this answer is complex, but it boils down to this. We have lost our balance, our homeostasis. What does that mean to us? So the body's inflammatory response works through two complementary channels, and one is pro-inflammatory and the other anti-inflammatory. Our cells produce a variety of these pro and anti-inflammatory chemicals using nutrients from the food we eat as raw material. So when they're seeing danger, they're triggering this inflammatory response. Now this is important in terms of this identification phase to be able to determine what could be triggering this inflammatory response. Now we have two questions. So what do you mean by inflation? Okay, so inflation is this backbone of every major illness in the world. It's the body's response to injury, infection, irritation, or imbalance causing the symptoms of redness, soreness, heat, swelling, or loss of function. When any four of these factors persist, the affected tissues aren't properly healed, and the result is a chronic state of inflammation. So doing the same thing over and over, and the body's not healing, is going to cause an inflammatory response. Even though your body might be tolerant to that food or that action or that outside influence, over and over the body cannot heal quick enough. So how does this appear in the body? Well, they say it goes under the name of chronic inflammation, eczema, arthritis, gastritis, and colitis. If it ends in itis, it means inflammation is playing a role. Now, when we look at how this is damaging our bodies, we can see an increased cardiovascular risk, joint pain and loss of mobility, abnormal growth of healthy cells, weight gain, compromised digestive function, memory loss, accelerated skin aging, loss of muscle tone. Now, we're trying so many ways in so many symptomatic interventions to be able to treat each one of these separately. All we have to do is go behind the scene and understand what's going on in our body in terms of inflammation. And if we can get inflammation under control, we are really starting to manage so many other aspects and side effects of inflammation in our body. Now, what is important is we need to be able to determine the difference between a food intolerance, which we're going to be touching on shortly, and an inflammatory food. Now, we also got to be concerned about what are foods that increase our risk straight away by just putting them into our bodies. Have a look at this quickly. And this came from the International Agency for Cancer Research. 1 1/4 hot dogs, 6 slices of thin ham, 2 2/3 slices of bacon increase our cancer risk by 18%. So the probability of you getting cancer increases by 18%. How is that possible? And which cancer is this? These cancers are cancers of the digestive system, mainly the large colon. So what happened to me many years ago when I was approached with this information, although I've never been one to have a propensity to eat this type of food, when people were telling me food causes cancer, food causes heart disease, I said, no ways. I was no different to the meat producers behind all of these messages, pushing how amazing this food is. But when you get this information from people that don't stand to gain anything from it, such as the World Health Organization, and they publish that eating 50 grams of processed meat a day, less than 2 slices of bacon, increases the chance of colorectal cancer by 18%. Folks, what do you want to do with that information? Now that you have it, what do you want to do with it? Well, maybe you don't want to stop, but can you cut back straight away? So Cancer Research UK suggests 6 ways that you could already start limiting your risk. Eat less processed and red meat. Now, I'm not an advocate of just dipping your toe into the poison when there's a potential risk. I say, rather try and eliminate it over time. And that is not a difficult thing, folks. If you know my journey and my journey about animal products and how I was conditioned on protein, you would soon realize that I ate excessive amounts of proper animal protein. But when I did my serum profiling, and the markers that were showing up all related back to exactly what I'm sharing with you today. Keep a healthy weight. Obesity, excess weight. Now, many times people say, well, I'm overweight and I'm fat. One's got to be very careful with what one is putting out there for oneself. And I don't see you as overweight, and I would not say you're overweight, but I would say there's a great amount of parasitic activity that's happening on your body that you should get rid of. It's not yours, folks. Yes, you were part of putting food into yourself if you are overweight or are slightly obese or obese in totality. But it's not important right now. What's important right now is for you to realize and not tell yourself these messages and know that what's living on your body needs to come off your body. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. Eat more fiber. That's vital. And we will see that as we go along. Drink less alcohol. In many instances, alcohol is poison. Alcohol has such a negative effect inside the body. Yes, some alcohol can settle the gut, but what kind is that? Be smoke-free, no smoking, and be active. And active is not being excessively active. Be active, moderately so. So what are the 3 steps that we can already pick up from this to heal inflammation? Well, identify foods, medications, and lifestyle factors that trigger inflammation in your system. What do we suggest? And we're going into it shortly. Food intolerance screening. You can test by mono eating and see how food responds in your system. Step 2, remove, replace, and enrich beneficial bacteria. That is your gut flora. Don't just go to the pharmacy or go to the health store and just get a probiotic. You don't know the benefits of this, and you don't know how these probiotics are actually going to be absorbed in your system. Yes, there are amazing probiotics out there. We've done our research on all of those things. But what we can say is that rather do it in one step at a time. Learn these things first and then implement your action plan. And step 3, diversity. Look at healing foods. If your gut's in not a good state, go with the healing foods. Clean water is vital. Fermented foods, fruits, vegetables. So vegetables, even other vegetables such as okra. Okra is an amazing healing food for the gut, for the mucosa of the gut. Pineapple, papaya. If you're not intolerant to those, and you wouldn't even know sometimes. People are intolerant to pineapple, which has got this amazing enzyme called bromelain that actually helps food digest. But if you're intolerant to it, you've got a problem there. It's causing the opposite to what we're trying to do. So already we're starting in this identification phase. Is what you've got to try and do is stay away from this processed boxed foods. When food has been taken through such a process and you're getting it in this form that is powder or in a form that is not natural, it's lost all nutrient density. So you've got to be able to learn to design your own nutrient checklist of foods. Now, we're going to be using this word nutrient density a number of times, and it's important that what is nutrient density? This is a concentration of micronutrients, so it's the vitamins and minerals in a food per calorie of food. So nutrient density is about eating nutrient-rich foods, which are normally caloric low, therefore you consume less food, less calories, but you can always eat a lot more of that food until you're full. Foods with adequate vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids also tend to have sufficient protein. So there's no need for most people to chase those extra protein calories if they're focusing on the minerals and the vitamins. I was pulled into that trap before. although I was never overweight in any way, and I was a lot heavier than what I am today, my whole eating has changed. And if my eating could change, I believe anybody's eating could change. Because I was rather stubborn in my approach, disciplined in what I was eating according to what I had learned over all these years as a sports individual. So what do we need to learn about essential micronutrients from these foods, which they include the vitamins, the minerals, the aminos, the essential fatty acids. They're all critical to a biochemical process that power your mitochondria, so that's your gut flora, and drive the functions of your body. Now, if that is not right, already you're going to be suffering with an energy drain, not sleeping well, not digesting food, not absorbing food. There are so many things already that's going to start happening when your foods have got no nutritional value. And so what do we do? How do we know the nutritional value of foods? We track our foods every day. And you can do that for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and actually see, without changing anything, after 1 week, you'll actually see how nutrient deficient most of us are. And even in my instance, where I eat highly nutritious meals most of the time, I'm not perfect, but 90% of the time, I'm eating highly nutrient-dense foods, I'm still lacking because I can't eat enough of them. So what do I have to do? I have to supplement. Many instances, those supplements, and I believe in megadose supplementation. And I felt the effect of megadosing supplementation from being well, from being energetic, from being able to sleep well, from protecting my body through the season where everyone's getting flu and colds. I'm not doing it. I'm getting up in the morning and going and climbing into a cold swimming pool. So folks, let's look at that. We're going to touch more on that as we go along. Have a quick look at what are the nutrient density of certain foods. And what you notice straight away is the top nutrient dense foods. They all belong to a vegetable. When you look at this and you take, for instance, kale. Kale, they say all roads lead to kale because of the nutrient density of kale. But don't take your kale now and go and make a chip out of it in the oven and destroy all the nutrient value or overcook it. What you've got to do is actually maybe try and smoothie it. And when you're smoothing it, just take the kale off the stem, put it in a smoothie, start it a little bit of a time, put a carrot in your smoothie. We'll be able to show you how to do that, folks. Bok choy, broccoli, spinach, bean sprouts. Bean sprouts are amazing. People can live off bean sprouts. I mean, that is so caloric low and nutrient dense. Now, that's a living food. Anything that you're sprouting and eating straight away is a living food. That's creating so much nutritional value in your body. And normally we buy these sprouts. I would suggest do your own sprouts. They are so easy to make. They're so easy to grow in your own kitchen. You don't need soil. You grow it in a bottle or in a container. So if you want to, you can go and follow some of the work of Dr. Joel Fuhrman, who's put these things out on what he calls an Andy scale. But if you look, and I look where I used to eat a lot of my foods, although I balanced it with the top greens, I also balanced it on the other side, the negative side, I'd say, with the bottom parts, the eggs, the red meat, the full fat dairy, the cheese, all of those things. So although I had a balance that saved me, many people are only eating the bottom half of this. And now you can understand why we have such gut problems. What is very important is the acidic imbalance in our body reduces our body's capacity to absorb these minerals and nutrients. Okay, so now what came first, the compromised gut or the acidic imbalance in our body? So being highly acidic from the foods that we're eating, and in the previous slide you would have seen those foods at the bottom of the scale are creating a high acid residue inside our body. Now this reduces energy production in our cells. It slows down cell repair. So then when slowing down cell repair and we keep eating the same food, we're developing these food intolerances. That's what makes sense to me. It impairs the body's ability to detoxify heavy metals, making it more susceptible to fatigue and illness. And at the end of the day, we end up with disease. And more importantly, we've seen it dangerously. It makes tumor cells thrive. So in an acidic environment, you add sugar. Sugar is acidic. Coffee is acidic. But coffee on the other side, the bitter taste of a coffee is also good for your gut flora, but not with all the milk that you're putting in. So the body goes to great lengths to try and keep this pH balance. It builds these cholesterol plaques, it stores fat, it leaches calcium out of the bones, magnesium out of the heart and muscles. And all of this it's doing just to act as a buffer to protect itself from this acid damage. And yes, we need a balance of acid-alkaline foods, but the problem with most is that the majority of the foods one is eating is highly acidic. That was me, folks. That's why I sat with such gut issues. My gut was burning all the time. Now, your gut doesn't burn when you've got an alkaline environment. I know I can wake up in the morning now and I sit with a 7.35 to 7.45 alkaline reading. Before, it was not like that. I was highly acidic in the environment. And now people say, well, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan or I'm all these things. But I can tell you what, in many instances, they can also be acidic. This is not as easy as one thinks it is. But start straight away and you'll see the end challenge on what we're suggesting. It's going to already change the pH of your blood. What we've got to be very aware of when we're looking at the risk of what we're doing and what's brought us to this place, and the risk of continuing doing what certain things that we're doing and what it's going to take us to, what we know is that the majority of animal products today, and I'm not saying all of them, you get some high quality grass-fed animal products, which could be in some instances good for your body. That's obviously if you don't have an intolerance to that form of meat. But the majority of meat, factory farmed animals, they are pumped full of antibiotics. They are pumped full of hormones. Now, there is no doubt that all of this is damaging to our guts. But what can we do? Straight away, there are a few tips on what you can do. You need more fiber in your eating. If you need the same protein, so beans provide that. There's about 17 grams of protein in 1 cup of beans. That's a lot of protein. And that's bioavailable protein inside the system. Doesn't need to convert to anything. And the beans create amazing fiber to be able to push through the foods in a far better, superior way to most other foods. Tofu. One must just be careful with tofu because tofu comes from a fermented soya bean. And much of the soya today is genetically modified. Mushrooms, portobello mushrooms, and many other mushrooms. Fill your eating plan with a number of mushrooms. Beautiful, high nutrition, seitan, versatile with a meaty texture. So if you're still looking for that bite, that's very good for you. There are so many different other ones. If you're looking to have a burger, you could have a chickpea burger. You make it that it actually tastes like a normal burger. People don't even know, when we have guests, they don't even know that we're serving them a non-meat burger if we're eating that. What are we looking for? Alkaline foods? This is where we're looking to go. Swiss chard, spinach, arugula, turnip greens, kale, broccoli sprouts, bean sprouts, barley grass. Now these are the high alkaline foods, even fruits. So the healing foods that we're looking for is the broccolis. And in broccoli, we've got sulforaphane. We've got the anti-cancer ingredients. And there's ways that one can actually increase the amount of sulforaphane when you're eating broccoli. Turmeric. Turmeric takes the place, and turmeric, we say turmeric, but we're actually talking about the active ingredient called curcumin inside turmeric that takes the place of 15 different anti-inflammatory medications. That's the science behind it. Pomegranate. Women in their 40s, 50s who are having these hot flushes, eating pomegranates, a tub of pomegranates every day, will relieve you of those hot flushes. Green tea. Green tea's got antioxidants, phytonutrients. It's a highly beneficial tea instead of having caffeine-enriched teas. Now, if you want something quite simple, and this is an easy breakfast, have a carrot juice for breakfast, or a blueberry hemp smoothie. And there's so many, folks. There's green smoothies. But just to kick off, the carrot smoothie for the whole family. You juice a couple of carrots. I'm talking about maybe 2 or 3 kilos of carrots. You juice some apple, 2 or 3 apples, some celery stalks. People do put water with it, but many instances I've just got to the place where I can just do it straight up. And what am I doing? In that one glass, I'm getting 1,500, my recommended daily allowance, percentage more of vitamin A. Highly bioavailable. I don't have to take a supplement of vitamin A or beta carotene. And this kind of eating on a more regular basis brings about this alkalinity in your system, feeds your system with highly nutrient-dense foods, and it also keeps your body full for a number of hours before you have to eat again. But folks, it's important. Don't mix your juice now with another cereal or with a bowl of oats or bowl of muesli. Don't do that. Just eat it on its own. And the same for the blueberry smoothie. Those are frozen blueberries. Use a little bit of honey. If you don't need honey, the berries are already all smooth and sweet and that. So you don't need that. So folks, stay tuned. We will be talking about, in the next session, about serum and urine profiling. So in our process of identifying risk, we've shown you the different impacts of what we're doing to ourselves. And we're showing you how to look back to see what has caused or what could cause the current and or future gut health problems, which, again, is the base to other future diseases. Then we looked at inflammation and we're saying, what is this thing called inflammation and how is it forming and creating this problem within our system? And if we get rid of this inflammation or just manage the inflammation right down, we're going to solve so many other diseases, so many other gut health problems. So stay tuned because we're going to show you what you can do to determine what could be impacting on you right now in this moment. Until later, this is Peter Smaniak and I'll see you soon.